What's going on, people? I am just coming here at the beginning of the video to announce that your boy finally has a little bit of merch. It's pretty simple. It's a sticker, a hoodie, and a t-shirt. You can find it on CrowdMade. The link is going to be in the description, and eventually it should be on the channel page and all the channel pages, but it's a pretty simple and straightforward design. Shout out to the folks at Nebula for helping it come together. And yeah, if you're interested, please support the channel by buying some merch. All right, peace.
Here is like a take that I don't know if I agree with 100%, but it feels like it sometimes. It says, brother said, black men are the only people you can dump on without getting canceled. And I can't say I disagree at times. And I'm going to confront my biases. So this isn't true, D. Blevins, because if you're white, you get canceled. But the way conflict works between black men and black women and the way the harm is distributed, that's really the conversation. The thing that most people in this conversation aren't getting is the distribution of harm in this situation. Like, there's a distribution of harm imbalance in that when that woman tweets out her issue about black male, therapeutic clients, even though she didn't say black men, but like we know who she was talking about. Like, I want to be clear on that. She didn't say black man, but we know who she was talking about in that tweet. She said men. We know she was talking about black men. So that tweet is harmful, period. It's a harmful tweet because it's going to do harm. The harm it does will affect black men. It will affect black men seeking to, it will dissuade black men from going to therapy. It will dissuade black men from reaching out for help when they need it because it contributes to this idea that therapy isn't for us. It contributes to the idea that black men are on their own and have to figure it out on their own. That is unhelpful. On the flip side, when DJ Academics is doing full-on podcast streams with 40,000 people in it talking about how Megan Thee Stallion is a liar because women lie and Tory Lanez is innocent, that's a much bigger bell curve of harm being done to black women. Does that make sense? And that's why we have to be ready to mediate our emotions around certain things. Because when I leave the house, I fear, getting robbed by a nigga. I fear the police. You know what I'm saying? I fear things that most everybody fears as a man. When my wife stops at a gas station, which she doesn't much because I take it upon myself to be the person that gets gas almost all the time. Because when my wife stops at a gas station, she may get robbed or kidnapped. You feel me? Academics is more influential than a random therapist. Patriarchy and misogyny and misogynoir are the language of the land. You get me here? When we're talking about what we call it, misandrinoir, black patriarchal blowback, whatever it is, that is a invisibilized, significant, but smaller section of the problem. The immediate threat is what's happening to black women outside in the world, in their homes, and online. So we have to constantly, if you're serious about addressing the issues, you have to constantly balance your annoyance with these moments, with these types of tweets, which again are hyper visibilized by reactionary black men. You have to manage your attitude towards that. You have to mediate that with the reality that the real upfront challenges that are facing black women hit different, literally. And this is a messy conversation. Like, if this were an essay, which it probably will be at some point in time, I'd map all this out better. But it's just hard to talk about because there's a lot of black men that are trying to step away from the grooming processes under patriarchy that we know are hurting us. And in doing that, we have to find spaces where we can be vulnerable with what that feels like. We have to find opportunities to, I call it, disarm. The black man in the chat know what I'm talking about. We start putting on armor. Man, I had a conversation with my 9-year-old the other night, and it was basically a conversation around him learning to put on the armor. You know, I'm like, look, these little white boys, X, Y, and Z, some of these other dudes you with, X, Y, and Z. But the gist of the conversation is, son, it's time for you to learn how to put on your armor. The cool pose, right? That's a thing that I'm gonna be real, and the black man in my chat, I know what I'm talking about. Nobody seems to really get. Some people are getting there. It's coming. It's unearthing. But too many people do not get this. Partially because the images that are promoted around black men serve a narrative that constantly dehumanizes us, even to ourselves and to black women. Oh, I forgot the other thing I wanted to bring up. Hold up. Because I talked about this in the video, and for whatever reason, I don't think I ever posted it, so I'm bringing it back. Because it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. There was all this conversation around Stacey Abrams. In every election cycle, probably since Trump at least. I can't find the tweet, but I got some of the stuff. So back during the elections, and this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, that like is the gap in the missing link to this conversation. Back during the election season, there was all this news stories, all these blogs, all these tweets, all these hot takes, all this content about how black men were going to lose the election for the Democrats. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. And what's so funny is that it was a liberal talking point and a Republican talking point. The Republicans were saying, oh, you know, black men are waking up and becoming Republican because they understand that the Democrats and and liberals are effeminate and weak, and black men want to be strong, and they want strong families, and they don't want boys to be girls, and all this shit. All their talking points funneled through black men as a conduit for their bullshit. The Black Manosphere ate the shit up. Black Manosphere ate the shit up. Black Male Studies crew ate the shit up. And it was everywhere. But on the flip side, keeping it 100, I saw so many black liberals, left-leaning Democrat, whatever, many of which were black women, repeating this shit. Repeating it. And it's happened multiple times because this started under Trump. And I saw, I feel like I saw, I don't know who it was somebody on, it was one of these MSNBC alikes. And it was some sister trying to, and I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe she didn't believe what she was saying, but knew that was the story du jour and nobody had stopped it and nipped it in the bud. So she's having an argument and she's talking about black male voters, and then suddenly she's bringing up Tariq Nasheed and Kevin Samuels, two conservative niggas. And it was just like, oh, how are y'all not seeing this okie doke? And I go back to that Jamel Hill tweet from way back when she said it. That was probably the first time it really came into focus, right? Like we already, so first off, like to unpack this, why does this keep becoming news? Because it's not true. The data out there, the results do not support this. Oh, and they use that. The irony is, so, and here's the thing. Guess who else did it? Fucking Killer Mike. Killer Mike did it. Killer Mike said some shit about Brian Kemp, speaking of black men, some other bullshit. Killer Mike, I don't know what happened to Killer Mike, y'all. COVID broke Killer Mike, because Killer Mike been having bad take after bad take for about 4-5 years straight. Meanwhile, important to note this, Stacey Abrams never said any of this shit. when you go back and you actually look what Stacey Abrams was saying, she never said any of this shit. She never bought into that narrative. She just said, black men, please vote for me. Oh, and of course, Kanye West. Yeah. So that's the other thing, like, right? So we have your Killer Mikes, your Kanye West, your Kevin Samuels, your Tariq Nasheed, the types of black men that get a microphone and a venue and a platform. They say the dumb shit. And then it becomes, as Kamali Sr. says, a pathologizing of black men, that this must be how all black men think, feel, and act. And now we have an issue of black men becoming Republican because misogynoir, and they don't want to vote for a black woman, so on and so forth. The data on black men voting, this is a graph, shout out to Michael Harriot, because he did a article in the Griot of all places. Black men are by 30-40% more progressive, depending on how you define that word, right? Or at least vote left in Democrat more than any other group of men in the country, at 80 to 85% pretty regularly. Now, do we lag behind black women? Yes. Everybody lags behind black women. Shout out to black women. Black women be the only motherfuckers in the whole country with sense most of the time. White men lag behind white women. Asian men lag behind Asian women. Latino men lag behind Latino women. Everybody lags behind women when it comes to voting patterns in terms of who they vote for. Black men lag behind their women at the same rate as any other group of men. But because we're black first, we know, right, the griot can be a little corny sometimes, so. But within this conversation, the idea that we're going to talk about black men's voting patterns, who represent at a max of what? 6% of the voting population, because we don't vote as much as black women to begin with, and not white people, is exactly what I'm talking about. And so this graph basically just shows, I think this goes back to 1970. And you can see it's the same pattern over and over. The only real dip is under Obama. And then maybe there's a gap here for Trump. And then the cherry on top of the cake, when we go back and we actually look at the voting patterns for Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams had more black men vote for her than most Democrats in the country. She had a higher percentage of black male voters than any other Democratic candidate across all the races in the country. So as much as they could, black men showed up for Stacey Abrams. But the narrative, nobody challenged this narrative. Nobody. Some of y'all probably did not know this. If you watched my stream, you heard me talk about it probably a couple of months ago. But nobody challenged that narrative. And so when dudes say, I feel like black men are the only people that can be canceled without consequences, that's the type of shit they're talking about. Because there can be outright lies being told about black men in the media, in social media, through content, and nobody challenges the shit. And it just moves. And this is like, and you know, I'm not a Democrat and all this shit. Like, we're talking specifically about this explicit phenomenon. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's when the BMS dudes get in their bag, that's what they do. The reason why I ever fuck with the BMS dudes is they'll get in their bag, they'll pull out the data, and they'll make you say, oh shit, why did I believe that about black men? Why is nobody challenging that narrative about black men? And let's keep it a buck. That's when I talk about certain black women academics in media, etc. They will ride those types of narratives into their MSNBC editorial spot. Boom. Nobody challenges it because challenging it doesn't sell. And so that's why brothers feel, so when I get to this conversation about like taking off armor, like you have to, as a black man, you see shit like that all the time. Whoo, and it's frustrating. It's infuriating. you see shit like this all the time, and you hear black women buy into it, you hear other black men buy into it, and then you see black men doing it. You see Killer Mike on TV, and you ask yourself, why isn't someone there smarter telling Killer Mike he don't know what the fuck he's talking about? You see what I'm saying? Ugh. And so that's why I stay empathetic, because it takes a lot of patience and empathy and a lot of armor to deal with shit like that on a regular basis and not become reactionary. Unlimited Tedkin says, this is why I'm a therapist for black people, mostly black men, because we're overlooked by most things. And so in this, Unlimited Tedkin pulls out the hard balancing act of being pro-black male, but anti-patriarchal. And if I have a critique about the BMS dudes and a lot of people that say they're pro-black male, as that they haven't fully disentangled how to be pro-black male and anti-patriarchal. Because that's not easy to do, because we define ourselves through these patriarchal concepts. And so therein lies the struggle. Therein lies the struggle. How do you do that? Because you know what happens when you're too pro-black male? You start scaring the maidens. Like, you'll hear dudes say they're pro-black woman, right? But then say, that's why we need strong families. We need to deal with all these gay people. Like, and I'll be so frustrated. I'll be so frustrated. They be like, I'm pro-black women, I'm pro-black children, and and I want gay people to be able to live their lives. But, the black family is the black family. We got to address the agenda. And I'd be like, nigga, you was halfway there. You was halfway there. They'd be like, we got to protect black women, which is why they need to be submissive. But that's a starting point. Like, shout out to the brothers. Shout out to the brothers on their journey, man. Shout out to the brothers on that journey, because you got to start somewhere. Because I didn't start here. I always pull that out. I did not start here. I was never as bad as some of these niggas. I can keep it real. But you got to start somewhere. You know what I mean? All right. Got that out.